Geryuganshoop will be the next SSR Plus character coming out in February. So here's everything you need to know about Geryu and whether or not he is worth pulling for. So let's get into his attack skills. So for his basic attack, he attacks a single target for 120% of his attack. And for his ultimate attack, he attacks all enemies with 5 hits for 120% of his attack. And he also grants specialized berserk to all allies in the same row. So what this berserk buff does is that the first strike from those that have this berserk onto them will deal berserk damage by 200% of Geryu's attack, with a chance to crit. So this means that an ally will first deal damage from their regular ultimate attack, then afterwards bonus damage is inflicted onto the target, which is based on Geryu's attack. So Geryu essentially provides extra support towards your DPS characters. Now this will consume 150 of your energy points from your energy gauge every time an enemy takes berserk damage. So essentially you can be losing up to 450 energy points per round, as Geryu can grant himself and 2 other allies specialized berserk. Now this effect will only last 1 round, as well as this attack requiring 0 energy to activate, so this ultimate provides free damage and support for your allies, which makes him a great support character. And if you have his keepsake, you'll unlock his ultra ultimate attack, where he'll attack all enemies for 150% of his attack. And he'll grant specialized berserk to all allies, so no matter where he is placed in your team, everyone will be granted specialized berserk, which is great. Now do be warned that this will instead consume 900 energy points altogether after a round. So do be warned that this will drain your energy, especially if you also have Gale Wind on your team. Moving on to his passive now, so at the start of the battle, he reduces the attack of all enemy heroes by 30% for 1 round, and grants 35% injury damage reduction to himself from round 2. Now note that injury damage also includes charge damage, so this will reduce the damage received from units such as Carnage, Metal Bat, Bakuzan, etc. If you manage to limit break him to 5 stars, he reduces the attack of all enemies, so not just heroes but heroes and villains, and grants 45% injury damage reduction to himself. And if you manage to unlock his 5p awakening, he reduces the attack of all enemies by 40% for 2 rounds, and grants 50% injury damage reduction to himself. So overall, he is a great debuffer for your team, which will help you out a lot. Now time to go through his core skill, as this replaces his awakening passive. So for his basic core, it requires 1 grappler and 2 espers to activate, which grants 3 energy per round. Now if you decide to unlock his second awakening, which core characters you still can, but instead of the awaken passive, it will go towards their basic core effect. This awaken 2 will also grant 1 additional energy if a support unit follows up per round. So I made a big mistake during my pre-Geryu SSR Plus video where I stated that the follow-ups were referring to actual characters like Carnage's and Metal Bat's follow-ups, so that's completely wrong. What it is instead, it refers to those support characters such as Child Emperor's dogs, Boris's minions, King's drones, and in future support such as Koketsu's crows and Geryu's candles. And now if you really want to go all out and awaken 3 Geryu in particular, which by the way requires an additional 2 evolution stones and 2 awakening stones from awaken 2 to awaken 3, you will instead be granted 2 additional energy if a support unit follows up. So having that extra energy can completely shift your PvP match, especially if you're going up against King or Watchdog Man without their keepsake. As let's say you originally start with 6 energies at the start of battle, then King seals 2 energies, so now you can only use 2 ults with the remaining 4 energy that you have. Now once your support character follows up, having that awaken 3 will allow you to gain 2 extra energy, essentially allowing you to get that ultimate back, so it can be very useful in PvP, but extremely expensive towards your SSR Plus resources, so I really wouldn't recommend it unless money is literally growing from the trees in your backyard. Now to go through his advanced core, which requires 2 grapplers and 2 espers. So for his level 1 core, when any ally takes fatal damage, they are granted specialized unyielding. So this specialized unyielding are those blue shields that you see in Epic Conqueror's Challenge, where these shields ignores all types of damage, anti-unyielding, and and replaces regular unyielding. This shield disappears after 4 actions of any character, and once the shield disappears, that character recovers HP by 100% of their max HP, which triggers 2 times per character every battle. Now, if you manage to get his level 4 core, the main differences here is that your characters will instead be healed for 60% of their max HP, but will be able to have 3 of those shields every battle. So essentially, your characters will have 3 extra lives instead of 2 from this core. So his level 4 core is definitely more valuable in most instances, so save your research vouchers and unlock his level 4 core as fast as you can. And going through his level 10 and 17 cores, they're basically the exact same as the previous 2, where level 1 and level 10 are the same, and level 4 and level 17 are the same. However, the level 10 core grants an extra effect which deals bonus damage by 150% of attack to 3 random enemies, whereas the level 17 core deals bonus damage by 80% attack to all enemies. So these high level cores are quite good. However, getting his level 4 core is definitely the main priority. Then afterwards, I wouldn't bother getting his level 10 and 17 cores and rather save those vouchers for Drive Knight's core instead, who should be coming out near the end of the year, as you definitely want to get Drive Knight's core as high as you possibly can. Now to go through his enhancements, so for his talent page, I would recommend unlocking both of his talent pages, and from his second page, I would definitely recommend upgrading his base attack, and from his third page, I would upgrade his base attack and ult damage reduction. Those should be your top priority. And then those marked inside the blue circles are also good stats to upgrade if you do have the spare talent points to do so. For his damage sigils, you can use frenzy sigils if you already are using your sword sigils on your main DPS characters, so they should be your top priority, but sword is also great to have on Geryu whenever you can put them onto him. And for his support sigils, you can use vitality sigils. In regards to his limit break, at a minimum, get him up to 5 stars as soon as possible, as you will be able to reduce the attack of all enemies, as currently there are many strong hitting villains and outlaws to go up against, such as Sonic V2, Boros Plus, RMG, etc. So getting his 5-star passive would definitely be ideal, but you don't need to rush it, but it is very good to have whenever you can. Spare the extreme training to do so. And in regards to his awakening, at a minimum, get him to 4p in order to upgrade as many attack discs as you can to get his attack as high as possible. Now, getting his 5p is also completely optional, as you do get a 40% attack reduction to all enemies for 2 rounds, which in PvP will be very strong, but you will need to pull for his keepsake in order to unlock this 5p passive. Moving on to his gears, so for his gear setup, the best set for him would be a machine set to get as much attack as possible. Otherwise, the next best set is martial arts. You can also use a drive or ninja set on him for that 10% attack bonus as well, much like martial arts, but those red gears in particular are better for your main characters instead. And with those gears, you would want all 4 of them having attack bonus, as you want to make his attack once again as high as possible to maximize that specialized berserk for your allies. And for his buff gears, all of them should have attack, with your villain gear having attack bonus and flat attack, your Esper gear having flat attack, and your dragon gear having flat attack. And if you manage to get an augmentation from upgrading your dragon gear, getting a berserk augment would work best with Geryu. Now, I will also be providing some examples of what some lineups can look like with Geryu. So for the lineups for those high-end players, you will be seeing probably a lot of the first example, where you do have your 2 grapplers, which are Carnage Kabuto and Gale Wind. Then you have your 2 Espers, such as Geryuganshoop and King, and then 2 spare units, which Boros will be a great addition, as well as Metalbat for the time being. So this can be a very popular team, as you can see here. Now, Geryuganshoop is placed in the same row as King and Metalbat, and that is because if you don't have his keepsake, then it's much better to buff up the attack of these 2, where King has to be in this row in order to speed up Metalbat, and Metalbat will basically be your main damage dealer, as you don't want Carnage in there, only because the berserk only affects attack and not HP, so definitely benefits like attack scaling characters, not Carnage. But if you do have Geryuganshoop's keepsake, then you can put Geryuganshoop in the other row, and then you can put either Boros or Carnage Kabuto in the back row, get sped up with that king. Now another lineup that you can use for example 2, where your 2 grapplers instead are Watchdogman and Carnage Kabuto, which will also be a very popular team for the high-end players. Now that would definitely be better and ideal if Watchdogman was 5p, otherwise you probably won't be seeing this too much if they aren't 5p. But the 2 espers can be Geryuganshoop and Boros if they did pull Boros, and then your 2 spare slots can once again be Medabat or Sonic V2 if they didn't pull for King. So this is also another lineup that could work very well. Now the problem with this lineup in particular is that you should be pulling for Geryuganshoop's keepsake because you don't want Watchdogman and Carnage Kabuto in the same row. Now because of this, if you see there like Geryuganshoop's in the same row as Boros and Watchdogman, that can't really work because the specialized Berserk will be granted to that row instead, but you really want Sonic to speed up Carnage and Medabat for example. So this is quite a very hard team to set in unless you got Geryuganshoop's keepsake. So you have to get his keepsake in order for this team lineup to work. Now you could also see a team lineup like example 3 where you have your espers being Geryuganshoop and King, your 2 spares being Medabat and Child Emperor. Child Emperor will work quite well, especially if you do have Awakened to Geryuganshoop. Now with the grapplers, you can use Carnage like everyone should be using, and Bangpoo. Now Bangpoo is quite an interesting choice, but he is going to be a decent support character if you didn't get Watchdogman or if you just don't have any other grappler like Gale Wind. Now Bangpoo is still good because his passive grants agility, which does reduce the amount of direct damage taken, which leaves you vulnerable to units such as Boros Plus and Carnage Emperor Plus in particular because they deal massive amounts of direct damage. So Bangpoo will be quite good to reduce the amount of damage taken from direct damage, as all of your units are now vulnerable because they don't have any tenacity shields. So the shields will only happen if they are one shot basically, and then they'll outlive that and then revive basically 2-3 times. So Bangpoo can be a good grappler if you don't have Carnage, Watchdogman or Gale Wind as one of those spare extra grapplers that you are missing. Or you can be example 4 where basically your 2 grapplers, Gale Wind, Carnage Kabuto, your espers being Boros or Geryuganshoop, and then your 2 spares can be Medabat and Child Emperor. So you can just mix and match, but these are probably the most popular types of teams that you will be seeing for those that do have 3 or more SSR plus characters. So you might be seeing this as the top of the meta as of February. Now to also go through some lineups for low end players, because this is a free to play accessible course, so there are some good alternatives if you don't have all of those SSR plus characters. Now for example 1, I did decide to put this team as one of the lower end players because some people did manage to pull Medabat and Carnage Kabuto. So if they do get Geryuganshoop as well, they can also use Gale Wind as their second grappler, and then they can use a Esper like RMG or ATT as your second Esper to fill in as well. But personally RMG would be a lot better in terms of ATT because Dot isn't really overly powered anymore, so RMG's 5p that is should work a bit better than ATT. And then you can have your spares such as Medabat and Sonic, just 2 duelists or just 2 of any other character you want. This is going to be my team. This is why I included it here. So if you want some inspiration for the units that I have in particular, you could go for a team that I do plan on using like this. Now you can also go with example 2 where your grapplers, you can use Carnage Kabuto and Goketsu. Now Goketsu is currently available in the Hero Backer 6, so if you do have Goketsu or if you are planning to get Goketsu, then he can be a good support character for his passive, not because of the shield rate, but he does increase heal rate as well, which will be quite handy to use in your team. And then you have espers such as Geryuganshoop and RMG, or whoever Esper you did use, you could use ATT. But some good other alternatives can be Sky King and Phoenix Man. Everyone got Phoenix Man for free, so you can use him as your Esper if you don't have any espers or any other spare slots that you can take up. Now example 3 as well, you can also go with, like I said, ATT, but make sure you do pair her with Vaccine Man or some Dot Booster to help ATT out. But you can use those 3 espers if you want. And then in terms of grapplers, you can once again use Bangpoo and Carnage. They can work quite well. And Alloy is probably another grappler if you don't have any of the grapplers that I just explained, or just portrayed. Alloy is also a decent grappler that you can substitute in, as his passive does give that ult damage reduction, which is quite neat to surrounding allies. And now finally, example 4 could also be a lineup that you could be seeing, or there's certain characters in that lineup. So you do have Geryuganshoop and Sky King of your espers. Now you can also include Carnage Kabuto and now Soiru and Tank Top Master. So the reason why I included this, if you did pull for Soiru, then you can use Soiru as a DPS character if you wanted to, but make sure you do have a shield provider in your team like Tank Top Master. So that's why I included Tank Top Master in here, because he does provide shields to Soiru. And now another great grappler is Tank Top Vegan. Now Tank Top Vegan is also another tenacity provider, which if you don't know, Soiru can stack up to 2 tenacity shields to do the max damage, so you can get 1 from Tank Top Master and 1 from Tank Top Vegan. Now the problem with this lineup is that you will be using a lot of your energy, so you won't be able to use those shield inflicting ultimates for the first round, but from the second round onwards you should be. But these are some examples of some alternatives of what you can put in your lineups if you don't have all of those insane SSR plus lineups. So for those grapplers, you can use Goketsu, Bangpu, Tank Top Vegan or Tank Top Master or Alloy, and then espers you can just use RMG, ATT, or other espers like Sky King or Vaccine Man if you have a dot dealer, and Phoenix Man, etc. So going through the main takeaways from this unit, to summarize him in a nutshell, he is an amazing core character. You cannot skip him. He will become your main core for both PvP and PvE for a very long time. Even when the next core comes, being Drive Knight Plus, Geryu's Undying Shields can still be better than that core in many scenarios, as well as the early stages of the UR era, so the ultra rare era, as his core does make a comeback in PvP to counter the overpowered dot meta at the start of that era. His ultimate is also completely free and deals damage, so he grants free damage and buffs to your team. So because of this, he is a great support and utility unit. He provides so much utility in battle, such as his specialized Berserk, increasing the attack of your allies, the attack reduction to your enemies, the injury reduction to himself, and most importantly, those Undying Shields that grant everyone an extra 2 to 3 lives per battle depending on the level of your core. And speaking about his core, those Undying Shields will be a great counter against Metal Bat and will lower his value in PvP, as those Undying Shields activate when your ally's HP bar is basically 0, which Metal Bat normally targets. And with those shields up, Metal Bat will be able to deal 0 damage. He will target them, but it will do nothing. So it reduces the effectiveness of his follow-ups quite a lot. Now this doesn't mean that he gets hard countered straight away, as he still will be in the meta for the next couple of months or so, until others such as Atomic Samurai and Garo get released. Then they'll start beginning to overwhelm Metal Bat, and then you'll start seeing him being shifted out of those PvP lineups. And finally, get his level 4 core as soon as you can, as you'll be granted 3 extra lives per character, which will be amazing for basically everything. Afterwards, you don't need to heavily invest into his research parts, as his level 10 core isn't necessary, and his level 17 core is ideally the best one, but that requires tons of investment, which you would rather save all of those vouchers you can now for Drive Knight's core instead when he comes out in the end of the year. So going through his cons, be prepared for 5-minute battles, as these shields will keep these battles going for an extremely long time. So in game modes that you cannot skip, such as live clash, it's going to be a long watch. His keepsake is also required in order to be that OP in PvP, as providing his specialized Berserk to all allies, as well as unlocking his 5p to greatly reduce their attack stat, will definitely be very noticeable in PvP and will remain in the meta for a very long time. And finally, his core will eventually be countered by breakthrough units such as Garo, Goketsu, Deep Sea King, Tank Top Master, etc., as they can negate those Undying Shields from keeping your allies alive for that long. So do take note of that in the future. So should you pull for Geryu? Of course you should. He's a core character. He is a must-have and is finally free-to-play accessible. Finally, a free-to-play accessible core. Far out. So hopefully you have been saving your black tickets and your monster evolution stones, because it's finally time to put them into good use, because trust me, you're going to progress very far with this core in every aspect of the game. Now, for those who cannot pull for Geryu during his debut, he is definitely a character that you cannot afford to skip. So do not pull for anyone in between until he comes back again during his rerun on the 15th of April. Now, for high spenders and even mid spenders, if you do like PvP and focus on it and you want to be very competitive, then go ahead and pull for his keepsake. It definitely provides great utility that benefits your entire team. Now, if you do have the money, you can go for his second awakening to have that edge against ceiling units such as King, but this isn't a must get for all players, so only those high spenders who do have the money to do so and have units such as Child Emperor, Boros, King, or in future Goketsu or Geryuganshoop with those minions, then you can go for his second awakening. Now, like I said, there is an actual benefit in getting his third awakening, but that requires a total of 5 awakening stones and 11 evolution stones, which is far too expensive. So do keep that in mind if you actually plan on getting his third awakening, as I have seen many people on Southeast Asia having that third awakening, but this can also be due to being able to acquire additional Geryu awakening stones and keepsake from reaching a much higher top up total that'll eventually be added in the near future. So also do keep that in mind, as we will get higher top up rewards eventually. I don't know when, but sometime soon. And now I present the predicted SSR Plus timeline for global. So everything so far in terms of the monthly banner has been accurate, which is good to see, and hopefully they don't plan on rushing the characters after Geryuganshoop's release. But we will have to wait and see how long this continues for. So start planning for who you want to pull for now using the list if you haven't already done so. And that wraps up the end of the video. I'd love to give shoutouts to all of my amazing YouTube members, so special thanks to my X tier members being Gamma, Blackshot, Shinobi PK, Skies, and Creighton, my Y tier members being Dragon, EQ, Jared, and Yenny, and my Z tier members being Zelion, Dove, Freddy, Great Leader, God K, Joseph, Wow You Can Really Dance, Aesop, Selenia, Yuvi, Sly Rider, Piper, Low Hanging Fruit, and Peppermang. Thank you all very much for your increasing amount of support, as you guys are massive contributors in making this type of content possible. So anyways, that's all for today, and I will catch you all next time.